I slept with my daughter's ex-boyfriend. He got me pregnant and I had an abortion. They got back together and got married. This was back in, let me think, maybe 1997? I was 38, and my daughter was 18, and she was dating Harry, who was 24. I was an alcoholic and dabbled in other drugs, mostly cocaine. I was not a good person, let alone mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about my alcohol and drugs than her, especially in her teen years. I am 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me, constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was an alcoholic and drug user, just like me. She broke up with him over his alcoholism. Soon after she moved away, not too far, but regardless, she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if we wanted to get drinks. I turned him down, but then one day he said he had a bunch of coke and I couldn't resist. He came over, we did the coke, and we ended up having sex. He was a very good-looking guy. He looked a lot like that ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture that was on the front page today. That is actually what made me think about him. For the next few months, maybe like 3 to 4 months, he would sometimes come over and we would have sex and do drugs and get drunk together. Any drug addict knows what that is like to have a drug addict buddy in that way. Then I got pregnant. I knew it was by him. I had sex without a condom a few times, stupidly. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got the abortion and kept it a secret. Anyways, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for like 4 months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years and my daughter contacts me and tells me that she got back with Harry and that he is fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was going to tell her that we slept together and she is going to hate me for life. They came over one day and said hi, and when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there is no reason to tell her about what happened. I agreed. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer, then beat it. I got sober. That's basically it. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas and I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, there is always that tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds, I can just tell. Not like sexual tension, like, why did we have to do that? What the fuck is wrong with us? Kind of tension. I think about this often, especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently, but wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Found out my dead best friend was in love with my wife. I'm writing this as a confession because I don't know where else to speak about this, and I don't want my kids finding this out on my main account. My friend died a few months back due to heart problems. He was taking care of himself, so it was a shock to everyone, especially his wife who was with him at their house when he died. Due to this, she decided to move somewhere else, and because she and her daughter were still distraught, she asked me to pack up his stuff. He had some boxes in his basement, and after a while I started feeling nostalgic and decided to look into them. I found pictures of us from when we were kids all the way to before we got married. That was enough to make me feel bad, and I just got back to taping them up. But one of the boxes seemed to be in much better condition, so I decided to check it in case it was something important. To my surprise, I found out pictures of him and my wife from when we used to hang out together, as well as more recent pictures from family reunions. The most recent being from my wife's birthday party. Alongside the pictures, there were letters that he never sent her. The first one dated 2 months before I met her. The last one was also the same date of her birthday party. There was one that stood out the most was one from after I started dating her. He wrote that his time had passed, and since my happiness was as important as his own, he would watch over us. I'll keep his box safe since it isn't my secret to reveal. Aida for spending my son's university fund on a trip to Europe to drink beer like I always threatened, instead of giving it to his stepbrother after he passed away. My son was smart. Smarter than me. I almost requested a paternity test because he was so damn intelligent. That is a joke. My ex and I divorced when he was about 12. She remarried when he was 14. I did when he was 16. I had an RESP set up for him. That's an education fund in Canada. As long as he went for post-secondary education, he could use the money for anything. I always told him that I was okay with him not going to university. That way I could use the money I had saved up for him to go to Belgium and buy some beer from monks that only allow you to buy one case. He knew I was joking, and he always played along. He wouldn't let me get his goat. When he got accepted to McGill, it was the proudest moment of my life. I took him out for a beer to celebrate his achievement and mourn the loss of my trip to Europe. My son was struck and killed by a drunk driver in March. I'm dealing with it. My ex is dealing with it. My wife has been nothing but my rock in this. She is holding me up. I was dealing with the funeral arrangements and everything when my ex came to talk to me about his money. She knew he had a scholarship and was just going to use the money for living expenses and an emergency fund. She asked me what I was going to do with it. I said I was going to do what I always said I would. I was going to Europe to drink beer. She asked if she could have it for her stepson. I thought about it and said no. Her husband is a decent enough person, but he made it clear that he wasn't responsible for any expenses for my son. Beyond food and shelter and stuff, obviously. Like I said, he is decent. I said I was not going to do that. I was going to go drink beer in my son's honor. She says I'm wasting thousands of dollars. And I guess I am. I have to give back the government portion of the fund. But I don't care. My ex thinks I'm being stupid and irresponsible wasting my son's money like this. I don't care. My son would laugh his ass off if he knew I actually did it. AATA for not giving my sister my wife's clothes. My wife was a corporate lawyer and mediator. She had some very nice work clothes. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and was gone in 2 years. The last 6 months of her life were hell. My sister Sarah didn't do jack shit for us during that time. My wife never liked her. I do not like her. She is a selfish cow. At my wife's wake, she started asking about my wife's clothes, and I brushed her off. She wanted to pick out a few pieces to remember my wife by, and I ignored her. It's been 6 months, and I've attended my mom's birthday, but I'm still not in the mood to deal with people. Then Sarah comes, asking about my wife's clothes. I told her my wife wanted me to donate them to this women's shelter, and she often helped. It will help women in need with their own court cases, court appointments, and job interviews. My sister Sarah said my wife was even selfish in death. I asked her what the fuck did she mean? And she started going off on how my wife always thought she was better than her, and it's not far that the clothes are going to charity and not to family. I told my sister I would rather see my wife's clothes lit on fire than on her back. My sister started crying, and my mom came over to see what was wrong. My mom told me to be easy on my sister because she was talking about my wife's death hard. The fucking insanity of that coming out of my mom's mouth made me grab my gift and leave. My mom acts like I had to ruin her birthday by being melodramatic, but I cannot believe their emotional blackmail towards me over fucking clothes that they have no right to.